Good evening. This is the world news at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Namibia elects first female president. Ekiti courts remands Dele Farotimi for alleged defamation. Obidient movement threatens nationwide protest over Dele Farotimi's arrest. Presidency issues warning to Nigerians as Senate holds action on tax reform bills, and bandits plant explosives along Zamfara Road, which has killed travelers. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The world news at 6 begins with Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa from the governing Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, being voted in as Namibia's first female president after last week's disputed election. The Electoral Commission said she had won more than 57% of the votes, with her closest rival, Panduleni Itula, getting 26%. Following logistical problems and a 3-day extension to polling in some parts of the country, Itula said the electoral process was deeply flawed. His Independent Patriots for Change (IPC) party said it would challenge the results in court. Most opposition parties boycotted the result announcement on Tuesday evening in the capital, Windhoek. SWAPO has been in power in the large but sparsely populated southern African country since independence in 1990. Nandi Ndaitwa, who is currently the vice president, has served in high government office for a quarter of a century. Once sworn in, she will join an exclusive club, as at the moment Tanzania's Samia Suluhu Hassan is Africa's only female president. Back home in Nigeria, an Ado-Ekiti magistrate court today remanded Lagos-based human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi over an alleged case of defamation against Are Afebabalola, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Farotimi, who was arrested at his chamber in Lagos on Tuesday by officers from Ekiti State Police Command, was arraigned for allegedly publishing a book, Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System, where he alleged that Are Afebabalola corrupted the judiciary and procured judgment in the Supreme Court. Farotimi pleaded not guilty to all 16 count charges. Meanwhile, the Obidient movement, a prominent socio-political group, has threatened to embark on nationwide protest following the arrest of barrister Dele Farotimi, a renowned human rights lawyer and vocal advocate for good governance in Nigeria. In a press briefing by the national coordinator of the movement, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, the group condemned what it described as a Gestapo-style arrest of Farotimi, which allegedly followed a petition filed to the Inspector General of Police. The movement asserted that the detention of Farotimi is a calculated move to suppress free speech and intimidate individuals speaking against the government's policies. The group noted that as a vocal advocate for human rights, Farotimi has consistently spoken out against injustice and championed the rights of marginalized communities. They further alleged that his arrest appears to be a blatant attempt to silence him and intimidate others who dare to challenge the state quo. Also, leading political figures Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi have condemned the arrest and detention of Dele Farotimi, describing the move as a gross violation of democratic principles and an abuse of state powers. In a statement on Tuesday, Obi called Mr. Farotimi's arrest a grave assault on democracy, accusing the authorities of misusing police powers to stifle dissent. Similarly, Atiku, former vice president, issued a scathing critique of the arrest, equating it to the oppressive practices of military regimes. Atiku dismissed the defamation accusations against Mr. Farotimi as a civil matter that should not involve law enforcement. In a recent development, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has issued a warning to Nigerians and leaders to exercise caution in their opposition to President Bola Tinubu's tax reform bills. Idris stated that the president is committed to accountability on tax bills and will always act in the best interest of Nigerians. The minister made the statement today in Abuja while reacting to the ongoing nationwide debate on the new tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly. He commended Nigerians for coming out to express their views and opinions on the bills, describing it as the very essence and meaning of democracy. He, however, cautioned that all commentators and groups should strive to be respectful and understanding despite the diversity of opinions. He emphasized that there should be no room for name-calling or the injection of unnecessary ethnic and regional slurs into the national conversation. Meanwhile, the Senate has suspended action on the tax reform bills. It further instructed the Committee on Finance to stay action on the public hearing pending pending the time the agitation in the public space is addressed. The Senate also constituted a special committee to meet with the executive branch and work with the federal government to resolve the issues surrounding the tax reform bills. In a tragic development, bandits today planted a set of explosives around my lumber access along Dansadao Guzau Road under the Maru local government area of Zamfara state, killing travelers. Gory pictures showed victims of the blast lying lifeless by the roadside as passers-by looked on in shock and despair. Residents of Dansadu told journalists that the suspected terrorists planted the explosives along the road that connects Dansadu to other parts of the state. A statement by the coordinator of the Joint Media Coordination Center of the Joint Task Force Northwest Operation Fansariyama, Lieutenant Colonel Abubakar Abdullahi, confirmed the incident. He noted that the Joint Task Force is currently coordinating with local law enforcement to assess the situation and ensure that those responsible do not walk free. He urged the public to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activities to law enforcement agencies. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has clarified that his administration has not been borrowing to fund governance, contrary to reports circulating in some quarters. Governor Fubara explained that the only loan obtained by his administration was a 200 billion naira facility earmarked for the construction of the Ring Road project and over 50-kilometer dual carriageway that will connect 6 local government areas in the state. He challenged concerns person to verify his clarification with the Data Management Office, DMO. Governor Fubara made the clarification during the inauguration of the 11.8-kilometer Okehi-Umola Eberi Road, a vital link between 2 sister local government areas of Eche and Omuma. The governor reaffirmed his administration's commitment to ensuring the happiness and development of River State residents despite attempts to undermine his efforts. He promised additional projects for the people, and including the completion of other roads and healthcare facilities. Governor Fubara also emphasized that governance should not be driven by vindictiveness, recalling how a road connecting River State to Imo State through Eche was halted midway by the previous administration because it led to the residence of an opposition politician. He noted that his administration is now completing that road. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break and return with the news analysis segment where we'll be speaking to the legal luminary Barrister Fred Nzako, who will be analyzing the issues on the news this evening. Do stay tuned. You're still listening to the World News at 6. Thank you for staying with us. You're still listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I'm now joined by Barrister Fred Nzako. Welcome to the World News at 6 and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Thank you so much. I won't take much of your time, Barrister, but we needed a legal perspective to the issue of Barrister Dele Farotimi being remanded in prison instead of being granted bail. He will be remanded for the next 6 days until December 10. And one would wonder, the NBA has come out to say that defamation is not a criminal case in Lagos, as that has been expunged in the criminal law of Lagos State 2011. And you would wonder why, is that why policemen has been called in from Ekiti State to have him arrested? Right now, he's been remanded by a judge. Is this not the same corruption in the judiciary, which he accused Are Afeba Balola of perpetrating? Is this not what is being still carried out here? Because why is he being remanded instead of being administered bail like his counsel asked?
It is very unfortunate that for the revered Chief Afaba Balola is being mentioned in this terrible show of power and terrible oppression that has characterized the arrest and detention of Barrister Dele Farotimi. Yes, it is obviously correct that defamation is a crime, not just in Lagos. It is under the law of tort, and anybody who feels defamed can only go to court and claim damages from the defamer. And there's no basis, there's no way you tag defamation as a crime. It's an old law utilized by the colonial masters and further utilized by the military authorities who were afraid of the truth and who were afraid of being asked to give account of their actions and in office. So they now brought this issue of trying to criminalize defamation. There's nothing like defamation or slander. They are all civil issues, civil wrongs, which can only be handled by
You would think that Are Babalola, being a senior advocate of Nigeria himself, would actually know that.
That is where it becomes very worrisome that Are Babalola would allow himself and his hard-earned reputation to be involved in a show of brute force against opposing voices. And the way and manner the police handle that matter also gives an impression that the police are trying to implement Nigerian laws through their whims and their caprice. Some laws for some elites and some laws for some others. Because the way police was supposed to have invited Farotimi and not to come to Lagos and whisk him down. And it is even more worrisome that the magistrate will not grant him bail and he's kept in custody for 6 days when next the bail application will be had on December 10th. Possibly means that they just wanted to rough handle him because one is not expect that the magistrate would fall to that low in order to satisfy Are Babalola. All these things are just to satisfy Baba. And of course, the law does not operate like that because as far as you are concerned, every man is equal before the law, irrespective of your status or your achievement.
Barrister, the name Are Babalola is one that has been associated with only the best things up until this moment. So one would wonder why he is choosing to toe this path. And quite a number of Nigerians are disappointed at the outcome of this. But I really want to look at the swiftness of the judgment, right? He was arrested just yesterday. Today he has been tried, he's been prosecuted, and he's already been remanded. The Nigerian judicial system, is it always the swift or only in the case of someone who wants to be quote and unquote punished?
No, he has not been tried. When somebody is brought before the court, the person will be arraigned, through which the charges against the person will be read out of the person and for the person to take his plea. It's either you plead not guilty or you plead guilty. If the person pleads guilty, then there will be summary judgment that will be issued without delay. But if the person is not guilty, as in this case, then a date will be set for trial. But the person can now be granted bail. And such bail means that the court will pronounce the bail and expect the person to perfect the safe conditions, after which the person will be set free so that the person can be coming to the court to do a trial from home. So what happened in Farotimi's case is that his lawyer applied for his bail, which is as of his right. Fundamentally, he is right because the offense they are accusing him of is a vulnerable offense. So it is very dishonorable that the court will not grant him bail and the court will now set out the case just for him to go and see the power of the prison for the satisfaction of that's all. Because the magistrate has misconducted himself by not granting bail, which is as of right. Yes, it is at the discretion of the court. That the offense itself, offense of slander, or offense of defamation, are purely vulnerable. In the first instance, they are not even criminal offenses. But I understand that they are criminal offenses in a but yet one is yet to confirm that. But I believe that if they operate with the criminal laws of Nigeria, then it is no longer a criminal offense. The issue of defamation and slander. So I think the whole thing is just to insult the sensibilities of Farotimi and handle him and teach him a lesson in quote. Without knowing that the man they are trying to teach has the heart of lion, and they will end up making him more popular and reducing the fame of our Babalola. I can tell you that this singular act, whoever that is doing this, either the police or the court, thinking that they are doing favor to other Babalola, they are undermining the man's integrity because they have caught the wrong one. It's just like they set trap for the mouse and their rat caught a shoe. So the days ahead will not be very good for the integrity of the Babalola.
You talked about making him more popular. One of in the petition, right? They're also asking that the book which he authored that has caused this whole ruckus, all the hard copies of the books should be confiscated, right? In order not to continue to perpetrate what Are has described as a defamation and libel against his person. But I want to go back to at about this time last year when Are Babalola donated about £10 million to King's College in London to advance human rights in Africa and for African students studying in London. This was about a year ago. Does it mean that his principles for human rights has changed between then and now?
It simply tells you that donation was not born out of his love for human rights. It must have been one kind of business that we don't know about that will bring favor to him personally or to his business interests generally. He didn't donate that money because of his love for human rights. Otherwise, there's no way the same man, except if he doesn't know about all this, because no ruler that fight that Babalola may not be working with the people who are doing this. Because there are so many overzealous people among the security agencies that may try to make Baba happy because Christmas is coming. So that they will go back to Baba and tell him, yeah, we have there to.
And that was why they had to embark on a 5-hour road trip to arrest the man from Lagos and take him to Ekiti State, arraign him in 24 hours, and remand him in prison.
Otherwise, the book that Are is complaining about, even if no copy of it comes out on the pirates will now begin to print the book. Remember when Salman Rushdie wrote Satanic Bandit, and a photo was placed on his head. And Rosie went on the ground. That book, Satanic Bandit, sold like wildfire because human institution will require that all these will want to see what is in that book. The book by Dele Farotimi will now sell like wildfire if it goes out within a part of a finger. So anybody who thinks that it has been shut out is making a very big mistake. You are indeed lifting him up. And at the end of the day, the court cannot, I don't think that the court can find anything against him because like, this is an issue of defamation. It's a civil matter. It's a civil thought.
I want to talk about the Obidient movement actually coming out to hold a press conference, and Eunice Atanko, who is the national coordinator of the movement, saying that the group will stage a nationwide protest if Farotimi is not released. In fact, they have called his arrest and detention a calculated move to suppress free speech, to intimidate individuals speaking against the government policies. And of course, in the same vein, Obi has echoed the same thoughts, is accusing the authorities of misusing police powers to stifle dissent. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP has also said the same thing, saying that his arrest and detention for defamation accusations is a civil matter that should not involve law enforcement. Would you really expect the Obidient movements to hit the street? We know how much Peter Obi has preached against protest, even when Nigerians felt that he was he was cheated in 2023. And many of his supporters were talking about hitting the streets, and he told them, do not hit the streets. Would you expect him to support the Obidient movement hitting the streets for Dele Farotimi, or whether they will do that with or without his approval?
It is not only the Obidient movement that will hit the streets. The human rights community will hit the streets. The colleagues of Farotimi, activists will hit the streets. Lawyers will hit the streets. And in all of this, it will continue to diminish the height that has been attained by Babalola. If anybody loves Babalola, we should advise him to quickly retract this step because going forward will be more dehumanizing for his integrity and will bring him more mess. That so many people who could ordinarily not have wanted to talk to him or speak about him will now have the zeal and the power to speak about him. So many people will hit the street because Dele Farotimi is a very popular human rights activist who speaks from the bottom of his heart and who wants Nigeria to get better and who does not mind what it costs for this country to get better. And of course, he can be described as a very big patriot of his generation. And such men cannot be toyed with. And you cannot expect that when you hold such men that there will be no effect. There will be a lot of effect on account of that. So in the coming days, you will see that so many people will hit the street. And in the coming days, you see that many people will want to buy the book. And in the coming days, you see that many people will want to speak not indecently about him, about Balola. Because every man has a skeleton in his cupboard. No matter how you try to hide your skeleton, people who know the little skeleton or the big skeleton in the cupboard of the air will begin to bring it out. Because there's an adage in my place that the elegance of the ego brings out anger from the kite. I can tell you that the elegance of the ego can annoy the kite, and there will be consequences.
Barrister Nzako, would you agree that if you've said defamation is a civil matter, should not involve law enforcement agencies, that the police and the Nigerian judiciary have become complicit in perpetuating illegality, especially seeing as Farotimi accused Araba Balola of corrupting the judiciary, and it's as if the same judiciary now has waded into his case, and now he will have to be in his cell for the next 6 days?
The first blame should go to senior lawyers who should know, because in every society they are the barometer of measuring the heat of the society. They are the barometer of measuring the recognition and the rights of the citizens. If senior lawyers trample on the rights of citizens, then what do you expect the police to do? The police will feel that they are just doing their duty assigned to them by possibly their seniors, who themselves are trying to make Baba happy, and the court itself, there's no way you expect the magistrate to have the nerve to reject the matter and tell the police frontally that this is not a crime. Because the magistrate would assume jurisdiction, and by the time the issues begin to be adjudicated upon in the court, that's when the magistrate can now give his or her order or judgment.
Barrister Nzako,
the blames go to those who try to mess up the society by arresting Farotimi on a purely civil matter.
Barrister Nzako, is that what we have now? People who are trying to make Baba happy and will not mind doing anything. All right. I still on the issue of cracking down on dissenting voices, and the Nigerian Minister of Information and National Orientation, that's Mohammed Idris, has come out to issue a stern warning to Nigerians and to leaders of thought in various industries to exercise some caution when they are opposing President Bola Tinubu's tax reform bills. In fact, he's saying the president is committed to accountability, and of course, he is warning Nigerians that yes, you can have your opinions, but make sure that you stay within the ambit of would I call it common sense now? But when you come out and issue a warning to people saying you've been talking about this too much, yes, I know that he called free speech the very essence and meaning of democracy. But how would you say that on one hand, and on the other hand, try to regulate what people say, or try to stop people from saying what they want to say, or try to stop people from actually expressing their opinions and their thoughts? Are Nigerians not free to talk about the policies of their government? Are Nigerians not free to talk about the policies and what the current administration is doing?
There is what we call responsible commentary. What the minister is asking everybody to do is you are free to comment because you have freedom of opinion, but you are not free to comment in response to this. And I want to also nothing on that to say, those who try to respond to the president on account of his policies are misfiring and they are not getting it right. You can criticize constructively. You can criticize very responsibly. But to begin to call names and rain insult on the personality of Mr. President is not acceptable. So I agree with him. It's more or less like a warning to those who may want to insult the personality of Mr. President. Because no country around the world will sit idly by and allow citizens to insult their leader. You can criticize to any level, but insult is different from criticism. It is only when the insult becomes persistent. If there's an insult out of that is unintentional, one could retract such insult and apologize. But when it becomes persistent, it will be termed in hate speech. Hate speech is not good because all over the world we have seen the effect of hate speech. And Nigeria tried to, sometime in 2016, 2017, to make hate speech, to criminalize hate speech. We and others fought against it, that there's nothing like that because it is like the foot of the chancellor. It will now give government officials the authority to cramp up people and squeeze out people from expressing their fair opinions. Because what is hate speech will not be defined clearly. But that does not mean that one will be applauded when one is insulting his elder. For any or even anybody for that matter, because we must operate like human beings with senses, because that's why God has made us to be higher animals, even though we are all animals. But some animals should be more equal than the others, and some must operate like higher animals because the good book says that the Lord created us in his own image. So we cannot begin to operate like animals in the deep forest. We must respect one another, criticize constructively and responsibly.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fred and Zako. Thank you so much for answering to us when we call on you, and thank you so much for your analysis right here on the World News at 6. We do appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have been listening to Barrister Fred and Zako analyzing issues right here on the World News at 6 and Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Now, just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that Namibia has elected her first female president. Ekiti court remands Dele Farotimi for alleged defamation. Obidient movement threatens nationwide protest over Dele Farotimi's arrest. Presidency issues warning to Nigerians as Senate holds action on tax reform bills. And bandits plant explosives along Zamfara Road, killing travelers. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Chioma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. For coverage of your live events and brand news mentioned in our news bulletins, do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good evening and thank you for listening.